Hello and welcome to your weekly dispatch, where we give you a rundown on news of national, regional, and global significance. Here's what stood out for us this week. Erdogan has secured his presidency, but what does it mean for the world? After multiple setbacks, the US seems to have figured out what to do about its debt ceiling. Rising ethnic tensions have claimed more than 70 lives in Manipur, and for our feature story, we'll take a look at the FAO-WFP report on food insecurity and what that means for Pakistan. Starting off with Turkey, Tayyip Erdogan has secured a historic victory in a runoff presidential election, extending his rule until 2028. Erdogan defeated his opponent, securing over 52% of the vote. President Erdogan's political journey has been a roller coaster, marked by ups and downs. He began as the mayor of Istanbul in the 1990s, but faced imprisonment and a ban on his party. However, he made a remarkable comeback, forming the Justice and Development Party, AKP, and becoming the Prime Minister in 2003. In 2017, he succeeded in replacing the parliamentary system with a presidential one and won Turkey's first direct presidential election and embarked on a mission to consolidate his power. He also faced a failed coup attempt in 2016. Erdogan has been a controversial figure, both celebrated and criticized for his transformative but divisive leadership over the past 2 decades. Erdogan has garnered support from the poorer and rural parts of Turkish society, as he has championed religious freedoms and modernization efforts in previously neglected regions. However, his crackdowns on dissent and assertive foreign policy have raised concerns amongst its allies and NATO powers. Erdogan's military incursions into Syria, which put Turkish soldiers at odds with Kurdish forces supported by the United States, and his relationship with the Russian President Vladimir Putin amid the Kremlin's conflict with Ukraine have strained Turkey's ties with European powers. Given Turkey's significance as NATO's second largest military power, its proactive foreign policy posture vis-a-vis Russia-Ukraine war as a mediator, and a crucial role as one of the last stumbling blocks before Sweden's entry into NATO, Erdogan's victory will have significant geopolitical implications. Speaking of NATO, the largest military contributor to the organization seems to have moved on from a domestic impasse. US President Joe Biden and top congressional Republican Kevin McCarthy have reportedly reached a tentative deal to address the issue of the federal government's debt ceiling, which currently stands at around $3.14 trillion. The debt ceiling represents the legal limit on how much the government can borrow. Failure to reach an agreement and address the debt ceiling could lead to a default, raising concerns about the severe economic consequences for both the United States and the global economy. Over the years, the US economy has grown, its debt ceiling has increasing dramatically in the past decade, surpassing 30 million in 2020 from just over 10 trillion in 2010. To avert a default, the traditional approach has been to either suspend or revise the debt ceiling. Throughout history, the US has suspended or revised the debt ceiling more than 70 times, including 3 instances in the last 6 months. While some countries have defaulted or come close to defaulting on their loans in the past, the repercussions of a US economic default would be practically catastrophic due to the size of the US economy and the dominance of the US dollar as a reserve currency. According to Third Way, a research think tank, the US could lose approximately 3 million jobs and overall debt burden would likely increase. Moreover, a default would lead to reduced purchases and imports by US businesses and consumers, particularly from developing countries heavily reliant on the vast US market for exports. This includes countries like Pakistan, whose largest export market is the United States. Furthermore, a prolonged recession resulting from a default could amplify voices from developed economies such as China and the European Union, questioning the dominance of the US dollar as the global reserve currency. Coming a bit closer to home though, violence erupts in Manipur, a small state in northeastern India, with recent incidents resulting in numerous casualties. Since May 3rd, at least 70 individuals have lost their lives in the midst of ethnic clashes between Meitei and Kuki communities, following a tribal solidarity march opposing the Meitei community's demands for scheduled tribe status. The scheduled tribe status list is basically a policy for promoting social justice by adopting positive discrimination and affirmative action for for the unrepresented within the society. The Kuki community opposed the demand, raising apprehensions that the move has some ulterior motives, including displacing them from their lands. Historically, power in Manipur has been largely concentrated amongst the Meiteis, who constitute approximately 53% of the population and reside primarily in Imphal Valley. The tribal communities, namely the Nagas and Kukis, make up around 40% of the population and dominate the hilly regions of the state. To curb the spread of rumors and hate speech, internet services in the region remain suspended. Nevertheless, reports from the ground indicate that an unprecedented situation in Manipur, a state with a history of insurgency. The clashes between the Meitei and Kuki communities have led to calls for a separate state, while some have advocated an exchange of population within the state. Meitei communities are now scarce in the tribal-dominated hill areas, while many tribals have fled from the Imphal Valley, predominantly inhabited by Meiteis. Both sides are calling for action against each other, and those who have been able to leave the state have done so. Furthermore, legislators representing tribal regions in the hills are demanding the state's bifurcation. Given the complexity of the ethnic issues at play, political observers have drawn parallels between the current crisis and the breakdown of Hindu-Sikh relations in Punjab from 1983 to 1993. And now for our feature story. I don't know why I got so excited, it's a bleak news actually. According to a recent report by World Food Programme and Food and Agriculture Organization titled Hunger Hotspots, food insecurity is likely to deteriorate in 81 hunger hotspots across 22 countries from June to November 2023, including Pakistan. Food insecurity in Pakistan is expected to worsen in the coming months due to the deepening economic and political crisis. The report designates Pakistan as a hotspot of very high concern, which is an area with large populations, over 500,000 people, projected to experience emergency levels of acute food insecurity, identified as severely food insecure, according to the World Food Programme's consolidated approach for reporting indicators of food security. This anticipated food crisis would be compounded by the effects of the 2022 floods, which caused significant damage and economic losses in the agriculture sector. The report highlights that Pakistan's mounting public debt and the need to repay a substantial amount of external debt further exacerbate the financial crisis. The report points out that a shortage of foreign reserves and depreciating currency have diminished Pakistan's ability to import essential food items and energy supplies, leading to higher food prices and nationwide energy cuts. These factors, combined with the lingering impact of the floods, have negatively affected food production availability and livelihood opportunities in the country. The report also attributes the deterioration of hunger spots to the global economic slowdown, tightening of monetary policies in advanced economies, and limited foreign currency reserves in many countries that contribute to higher credit costs and restricted food imports. The reduction in donor support to combat global hunger further hampers economic access. Multiple drivers contribute to the potential rise in acute food insecurity in these hotspots. These include conflict and organized violence, economic shocks, weather extremes, climate variability, humanitarian access constraints, malnutrition, and animal and plant pests and diseases. I am Hajra Asif Khan, and this was your Weekly Dispatch.